and welcome everyone to the Back to Space channel. My name is Danielle Dallas Russa. Today we're taking a deep dive into our current NASA administrator, Jim Bridenstine. We hear his name in the news on a daily basis, but I can honestly say before I did all this research, I did not know his background extensively at all. So I want to relay all the information. Where is he from? Some interesting facts about him, some of his views on political issues. So without further ado, let's get started. Jim Bridenstine was born on June 15th, 1975, so as math would have it, this makes him 45 years old in 2020. He was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, went to Jenks High School, and is an Eagle Scout. Graduated at Rice University circa 1994 to 1998 with majors, and yes, I said major with an S because he was a little bit of an overachiever, but I think it worked out for him. Anyways, his majors were in economics, psychology, and business. Then he came out of college in 1998. He became an active duty naval aviator in both the active duty US Navy and the US Naval Reserve, where he flew the E-2C Hawkeye aircraft as a part of a career in air wing in the former and in Central and South America in support of the war on drugs. He was active duty from 1992 to 2007. And while he was active duty, he got married to Michelle Ivory. After his service, Bridenstine then became a defense contractor for Weil Laboratories, which is an American privately held provider of engineering, scientific, and technical services to the Department of Defense, NASA, and a variety of commercial customers, primarily in the aerospace industry. He was there very briefly, only from 2007 to 2008. In 2008 to 2010, he became the director of the Tulsa Air and Space Museum. And somehow, during that year of 2009, while he was still director of the museum, he attended Cornell University to get his MBA. And during all of this, he still continued to fly missions with the Navy Reserve and the Oklahoma Air National Guard. Phew! That must have been a busy year. In 2012, Bridenstine ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in Oklahoma District 1. In this election, his top campaign contributors were Northrop Grumman, Latshaw Driller, American Optometric Association, Citizens United, and the Every Republican is Crucial Political Action Committee. Whew, that's quite a name. In the Republican primary election on June 26, 2012, Bridenstine defeated five-term incumbent Congressman John Sullivan. And then he kept going. In November 2012, in the general election, he defeated Democrat nominee John Olson 63% to 32%. And he won all 5 counties in the district. So then Jim found himself at a seat at the big kids' table, the U.S. House of Representatives. So I don't want to go into the whole thing about each committee he sat on for all the years he was active, but he sat on the Committee on Armed Services and Committee on Science, Space Technology, and multiple subcommittees. But we're trying to keep this to not be a million years long, so we're going to move right along. Here are a little bit about Bridenstine's views. Let's talk about space. Bridenstine has focused heavily on space policy during his tenure in Congress. He stated, and I quote, "Our very way of life depends on space. The way we communicate, the way we navigate, the way we produce food and energy, the way we conduct banking." In April 2016, at the 32nd Annual Space Symposium, he introduced H.R. 4945, the American Space Renaissance Act, which is comprehensive reform legislation with provisions affecting national security, civil, and commercial space policy. Also, he proposed legislation related to the regulatory process overseeing certain non-traditional space activities. So, he's been pro-space this whole time. Space News in 2015 named Bridenstine one of the top 5 space leaders making a difference. Here's Bridenstine's views on climate. Bridenstine rejected the idea of global climate change. In a 2013 speech on the House of the Floor, he stated that the global temperature stopped rising 10 years earlier. Bridenstine criticized the Obama administration for spending 30 times as much money on climate science as weather forecasting, which was later proven to be a false statement. He criticized NASA for spending money on climate science. Before becoming the chief administrator of NASA, which we're going to talk about in like 2 seconds, Jim didn't believe in climate change, which we just said, but guess what, guys? He came around. By May 2018, Bridenstine has reversed his position on climate change at a town hall meeting in Washington, D.C. He said, quote, "I fully believe and know that climate is changing. I also know that we human beings are contributing to it in a major way." Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. We're putting it into the atmosphere in volumes that we haven't seen, and that greenhouse gas is warming the planet. That is absolutely happening, and we are responsible for it. So then here's the big news. Then on September 1st, 2017, the White House announced that Bridenstine was President Donald Trump's preferred pick to head NASA, making him the first member of Congress to lead NASA. That choice was immediately criticized by both Republican and Democratic politicians. They were saying that NASA should be headed by a space professional, not politicians or a Trump ally. And just as a little bit of background, NASA administrator before Jim was General Charles Bolden at NASA, who actually was an astronaut and fixed the Hubble, and other appointees to be in that position were space professionals as well. Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio said that Bridenstine's political history could prove controversial and delay the confirming process, saying, quote, "I just think it could be devastating for the space program," end quote. While Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, also of Florida and a former payload specialist for NASA who flew on STS-61C, said, quote, "The head of NASA ought to be a space professional, not a politician." CNN found that Bridenstine's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter accounts were entirely deleted, while most of the interviews on his SoundCloud were deleted at a time when Congress would be examining his record for his confirmation hearing. But he was sworn in and hit the ground running. He has been working hard for the Artemis program, that's mission is to land the first woman and the next man on the moon, specifically at the lunar South Pole region by 2024. He is working closely with the commercial space companies in ways never seen before, and his mission to go to Mars. He just gave a State of NASA, which is kind of like State of the Union, but for NASA, which he said he is going to lead NASA into a new and exciting era, saying America has invested more than $25 billion from the president for the fiscal year of 2020. A 12% increase, which includes $3.3 billion for a human landing system. And he mentioned his goal is also to make America the first to land on Mars. So, I know that I've been hearing Jim Bridenstine's name all the time, and I was wondering and thinking maybe you would like to hear about him too. And that's all I have today. I hoped you enjoyed this report on who is Jim Bridenstine. Why don't you go ahead and leave a comment to let me know what you think about Jim and his vision for NASA. Do you think that him working in space policy makes him qualified to be the administrator? And also, do you think he's working hard on the right things? We hear about him on the news often, so I want to know, what are your thoughts? Thanks everyone, that is our report for the Back to Space news. Have a good week. Thanks everyone so much for watching. If you want to see more about Jim Bridenstine, go ahead and click this link. Our Back to Space student ambassadors did an interview with him just this past year. Check that out, and also be sure to subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment. Thanks, bye.